Calm your mind, take a slow breath, and let all the noise outside fade into the distance. The world you know will not follow you tonight. There is no buzzing phone, no name to remember, no schedule to keep. Now you are no longer in your bed, no longer in this century, and not in the life you recognize. You are about to walk backward, far, into a time you have never seen but once existed. Into a world that feels like myth but was once reality. Tonight, we will enter a day in the life of a woman in ancient Greece. Not a woman in poems, not a figure among gods and tragedies, not a name etched into clay, but an ordinary woman. One who wakes early, washes with cold hands, combs her child's hair, and stares out a small window she is never allowed to pass. In this world, to be a woman means to live, to be seen but not heard, to be admired from afar but hidden from the room where decisions are made. So, close your eyes gently. There is no rush. Let time flow slowly. And let us walk through a day in a life forgotten by history, but once beating, just like yours. Imagine you wake up in the year 436 BCE. This world has no machines or wires, but it echoes with the soft steps of leather sandals on marble. You are in Athens, a city that centuries later will be praised as the foundation of democracy and philosophy. But for you, there is no democracy, no voice in any assembly. The house you live in is simple, built from stone and clay, with an open courtyard at its center. That courtyard is your world. It is where you cook, wash, teach your children, and listen to the sounds of the outside from a distance. There are no windows facing the street, no place for reading or writing unless you are born into extreme wealth. But even women of wealth are not free. High walls keep them in, and customs keep them quiet. A woman's honor is not her own. It belongs first to her father, then to her husband. The outside world is not meant for a woman's eyes. And a woman's body, even her voice, is considered pure when hidden. In a world like this, to be born a woman means to inherit boundaries before choices. Education is limited. Movement is watched. Dreams are shaped by others. Women are not remembered as thinkers or explorers. They are the keepers of the house, the keepers of silence. And you are one of them. Today will be like yesterday. Tomorrow will be the same as today. There are no surprises, no journeys, only a slow rhythm of tasks, like water dripping from an old clay jar. Morning arrives without the chime of a clock or the glow of a screen. It comes slowly through the call of a distant rooster, through a pale light slipping through the roof edge and brushing the clay floor beneath your feet. You sleep on a woven mat, without a pillow, just a wool cloth to shield your body from the night's cold air. There is no soft mattress, no private space. You share the room with your children or with other women from your husband's family. This house is not a place of rest, but a place of labor that never ends. When you open your eyes, you do not ask what you want to do today. You only remember what must be done because your days are not a space for choice. You rise slowly and wear a simple garment, a long cloth wrapped and pinned with bronze. There is no mirror. You comb your hair back with your fingers and check for any tears in your clothing. In the center courtyard, the coals from last night still hold warmth. You blow gently, then feed it twigs until it burns again. The scent of ash and smoke is the first breath of your morning. Outside, the city stirs. Men walk toward the agora, slaves rush by with goods, and the sounds of the market begin to echo. But you hear it only from behind the walls. The outside world moves without you. You will only see the sky if you look up from the narrow courtyard, and that is how your day begins. Not with eagerness, not with a plan, but with the quiet knowledge that the day will move forward and you must follow. Once the fire is lit, you begin preparing food. There are no shining metal pots or clean kitchens with organized shelves. You cook on a flat stone with fragile clay vessels and worn wooden spoons. The morning meal is not a feast. Just porridge made from coarse wheat, boiled with water and a little salt, sometimes with a drop of olive oil if the storage allows. There is no sugar, no fresh fruit. Honey is a rare luxury. The children sit quietly in the courtyard, their eyes tired. They too know there will be no surprise in their bowls. On the kitchen wall hang cloth pouches filled with legumes, onions, and hard bread from days before. There is no refrigerator, no blazing stove, only stillness and the lingering smell of smoke. As you stir the porridge, your arms already ache. The sun has barely risen, yet your body knows fatigue. No one greets you good morning. No one says thank you when bowls are passed. In this house, cooking is not celebration. It is duty, and duty is something done because it must be, not because it is desired. The food is gone in silence. The remains are cleared without a word. You wipe your hands on a ragged cloth hanging from a wooden peg, then move on to the next task. The day is still long. And everything you will do today will only be noticed if you stop doing it. After the morning meal is done and the clay bowls are set aside, you move to the corner of the courtyard where the water jars stand. The water was fetched from the public well yesterday afternoon, carried in heavy jugs with sore arms. Now, that water is used to wash the linens. There is no fragrant soap, no machine. Only your hands, the cold water, and a rough stone to scrub out the stains. You squat for hours, rinsing, wringing, hanging the cloth across ropes tied from post to post. Coarse white linen, children's garments, kitchen rags blackened with soot. No one helps you. A female slave may be there if your family is wealthy enough, but she too is part of the silence of this house, working without voice, without complaint, without a name that history remembers. Your hands begin to redden. Your joints grow stiff. But you keep washing because there is no pause. In this house, time is not yours. It belongs to the task, and you are its keeper. You sweep the courtyard floor with a straw broom. Dust never truly disappears. It only moves. Each day you repeat the same motions, lifting, wiping, cleaning. No one asks if you are tired. No one suggests rest. Because in this world, a woman's body is seen as a tool, not a space that needs care. And tools must keep working if the home is to function. You know there will be no reward. But you do it anyway, because if you don't, no one will. Midday approaches and light begins to reach deeper into the house, but you remain in the shadow. There is no reason to go outside. There is no place waiting for you out there. The market is filled with men arguing loudly, slaves rushing by with goods, and the world's voice echoing in the open air. But none of it is meant for you. You are not allowed in public spaces without what is deemed a proper reason. You cannot sit in the agora. You cannot enter the philosopher's hall. You cannot speak in assembly. Even to buy bread, you must be accompanied by a slave or male relative. In this house, you exist. Outside the house, you vanish. If a woman's voice is heard in the street, it is considered shameful. If her face is seen too often, her reputation fades. The outside world is not yours. It moves on without acknowledging you. So you sit at the inner doorway, listening to the city's noise beyond the wall. You know that outside, marble statues stand tall to honor gods and heroes. But none are built for women like you. No marker says that you once thought, felt, and labored in silence. Only stone and shadow know that you were here. And in this quiet midday, you look up through a crack in the roof and wonder what it feels like to walk freely, unbound by limits you never chose. Sometimes another voice comes from the inner room. Your cousin arrives with her child. Your mother sits in the corner, stitching fabric with the slow rhythm she has repeated for decades. You speak together, but never loudly. A woman's voice should not echo beyond the walls of the house. You talk of small things, the olive oil supply running low, a younger sister not yet married, or a strange dream that never found its meaning. There is no talk of the outside world, of free thoughts, of change. Not because you cannot think, but because there is no space to share those thoughts. In this world, a woman's mind is often treated like a small fire meant to be kept from going out, but never allowed to burn too bright. So you listen to one another, share a soft laugh, then return to silence. No one records these conversations. No one will remember them in the years to come. But they are the last breath of a presence pushed aside. Sometimes, when an older woman tells of her youth, you hear the hopes she once held of love, or travel, or freedom. But all of those have faded now, like embers in a hearth gone cold. And you know whatever hopes you carry now, they too will slowly disappear. Because here, a woman's voice is allowed to live only in whispers. And whispers, over time, become silence. Your children play in the courtyard, in the same space where you wash, cook, and sweep. There is no garden, no books, only pebbles, worn cloth, and pieces of wood turned into dolls. The boys sometimes go outside, play in the streets, or are taken by their father to public places. But the girls stay home. From an early age, they are taught to be quiet, to help in the kitchen, to care for siblings, to tidy their hair, and to keep their questions to themselves. If your daughter asks why her father leaves, but her mother always stays, you just smile and say, "That's how it is." There is no other answer. Because even if you know the reason, you are never given space to explain it. You know your daughter will inherit your life. This house will be her world, not the sea, not the street, not the halls of philosophy, only this: cloth and dust. Time that moves slowly. Days filled not with dreams, but with repetition. Sometimes you see her eyes as she looks at the sky through the roof's gap. And you want to say the world is wide, that there is something beyond this. But you also know the door of this house is stronger than any words. And slowly, your daughter will learn to close herself, as you did. Not because she wants to, but because it is the only way to endure. As the sun begins to fall, you return to the hearth. The coals you've tended since morning are now dim, but still warm enough to cook one more meal. There is not much difference from the morning's food. Grain, beans, sometimes onions. If the supply is generous, there may be a bit of salted fish or thin slices of goat cheese, stretched to feed everyone. You do not taste it first. You already know the flavor. You've made it too many times, and each time it is almost the same. The children sit quietly again. The men in the house, your husband or father-in-law, may have returned, but they do not help. They sit and speak of things you do not fully understand, because you are never invited into the conversation. You are not allowed to sit among them, not allowed to speak. Your voice is not needed. So you listen from a distance while you ladle food into bowls and place them before them. If you eat later. In the kitchen's corner with the children, you do not complain. Do not ask, do not demand. Because in this world, a woman's hunger is not an urgent matter. A woman's exhaustion is not a story worth telling. As night arrives, your body feels heavier. Your back aches. Your hands are rough. But there is no place to lie down for long. There are still clothes to rinse for the night, still floors to clean. And tomorrow morning, it will all begin again. Night falls slowly, without bright lights, only a small wick burning in a clay bowl. Its glow is faint and flickers, casting soft shadows on the cold stone walls. The sounds of the city fade, and the house becomes quieter than before. The children begin to sleep on the same cloth you folded earlier. You cover them with a thin cloak, kiss their heads one by one, then sit still in the dark. This is the only time in the day when you are not in motion. But it is not your time. 'Tis just a pause between one duty and the next. You do not read before sleep. There are no books, no letters ever taught to be read. Your mind moves on its own, like a reflection dancing on the well's water. You remember your mother, who once sat in the same place. You remember nights like this when you were a child, looking at her tired face, wondering silently if a woman's life was always this way. Now you know the answer, and you do not know how to tell it to your daughter without taking hope from her eyes. You want to say that someday it will be different, but you also cannot lie. In this world, even a woman's dreams must be whispered, so they do not disturb the forced peace. So you remain silent. You watch the lamp flicker and fade. Then you lie down slowly, not to rest completely, but to prepare to rise again. In the middle of the night, the air turns cold, and your body begins to shiver beneath the thin cloth that barely offers warmth. You do not rise to check the temperature. Do not adjust blankets. Do not light a fire, because none of those things exist. You simply curl into yourself, hoping sleep returns faster than the ache in your back. Sometimes you cough softly, the dust and smoke from the hearth still clinging to your throat. Sometimes your head throbs, though you do not know why. There is no physician to call for ordinary pain. Pain is part of the routine, and a hurting body is not reason enough to stop. If you complain, no one listens. If you stay silent, the burden remains. So you choose silence. In this world, a woman's body is something borrowed to give birth, to raise, to serve, but not to be honored. It may be used, but not cared for. Sometimes you feel your joints like stone, no longer flexible. Your feet are stiff. Your fingers burn from long hours of labor, but no one writes that down. No one minds. Even you begin to forget what a healthy body feels like. You do not remember the last time you laughed without pain in your chest. Tonight is like the night before. Quiet, cold, and filled with pauses that do not heal anything. When dawn comes again, you open your eyes with the same feeling as yesterday. There is no surprise, no change, only the continuation of what you already know. Morning light slips in again. The rooster calls again, and you rise again not because you are rested, but because there is no other choice. In this world, time does not move forward for women. It circles in tight loops, enclosing you without a clear end. You do not mark the calendar. You do not count the years. Because the days all feel the same, and age is only measured to decide when you are ready to marry, to give birth, or to die. There are no birthdays, no private celebrations, no moment that says, "This is yours." Everything belongs to others. Even your body is not entirely your own. So you stand again. Begin again. Like your mother, like your grandmother, like the women before you who also woke in the cold dawn, in nameless homes, with lives no one will remember. You keep no record, but you carry memory. And sometimes, when everything feels too quiet, you wonder silently, will anyone, someday, know that you are here, that you opened? The house you live in is called oikos. In the language of men, it means honor, order, and stability. But for you, oikos is the walls you cannot cross, even when the door is open. It is the place where you are born, raised, and will die, all in the same space. This house is not a refuge, it is a frame. It shapes how you walk, how you think, even how you dream. Every corner reminds you that there is no place for you beyond it. Even the air you breathe in the courtyard feels like it belongs to someone else. You know the sound of footsteps from outside the market, the temple, the places of thought, but you are not invited. This house taught you to be quiet even before you learned to speak. It binds you gently not with chains, but with repetition. Not with violence, but with habit. And that is the hardest to escape. The habit that makes a cage feel like home. Sometimes you stare at the same stone wall every day, hoping for a crack that lets in new wind. But there is none. Only your own shadow greets you, and even it is tired of standing so long. This house does not hate you. It simply does not see you. And sometimes Being unseen hurts more than being hated. You've heard of the philosophers, the ones who sit beneath olive trees, speaking of forms and truth, of soul and justice. But you don't know what they look like because you are not allowed near. Their thoughts are written on scrolls you cannot read, spoken in places you cannot enter. You know their names? Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, because your husband mentions them sometimes, like someone naming distant stars. But there are never women among them. There is never space for you among those seats of discourse. You were never taught to read unless your family was unusually wealthy and open-minded. But even then, it was just letters, not understanding, not dialogue. Because if a woman starts to question, the world begins to shift uncomfortably. So you learn not to ask. You can think, of course, but think in silence. Think without growing too tall. You know much about life, how to care for a sick child, heal a wound, read the gestures of someone who is angry or hungry. But none of that is seen as knowledge. They call it instinct, not wisdom. So you walk through this house carrying all your understanding, never given the chance to write it, to share it, or to claim it as yours. You become a quiet library. And in that silence, knowledge becomes a weight, not a freedom. You did not marry for love. Love is a story told by poets, but it does not enter homes like yours. Marriage is an agreement between father and husband, between two heads of families weighing wealth and name. You stand between them, wearing your finest clothes, but no one asks if you are ready or if you want this. That day is the busiest of your life, but you speak very little. Only silence, then departure from your parents' house to the house of the man who now owns your life by right. Your age may have been 14, maybe 15. Your body not yet grown, but the world says you are ready. There is no party you remember with laughter. No memory that makes you want to return to that day. Only a quiet voice inside, trying to accept what cannot be changed. After the wedding, you move to a new house, but its contents are the same. Kitchen, dim room, endless tasks. The only difference is you know no one there. Even your husband feels like a distant shadow you must now serve. There is no guidebook, no mother by your side at night. Only you, and a weight that falls silently onto your back. Marriage is not a door opening to a new world. It is a door closing behind you, and you never hold the key. The first nights as a wife are not nights of embraces or whispered tenderness. There are no sweet words, no eyes meeting yours with warmth. Only a strange bed and hands you do not know touching your body as if it belongs to everyone, not something that once belonged to you alone. You do not ask what is happening because you know it does not matter. You stay silent. Sometimes you hold your breath. Sometimes you bite your lip to stay quiet, because a good woman does not refuse. Because a proper wife is the one who accepts without question. You do not know if this is called love, but you know this is what will continue. Week after week, month after month. Your body becomes a tool, not a home. It becomes a bridge for your husband's family to have children, not a space for comfort or recognition. Sometimes you turn your face to the wall when it's over, hoping sleep will come faster than fear or sorrow. But that feeling never leaves. It stays quiet, like a wound that doesn't bleed, but also never heals. And you learn to hide it, even from yourself. Because if you begin to feel it all, you know you will not survive. So you bury it, deeper than any secret. Until in the end, your body remains in that bed. But your heart is nowhere to be found. When your body begins to change, you know what it means? There is no celebration, no congratulations. Only whispers from other women who have been through it saying, now it's your turn to prepare. Pregnancy is not a miracle celebrated in your house. It is a duty. And more than that, it is a risk. Every woman knows that giving birth could mean life or death. There is no guarantee you will survive. No hospitals, no modern medical help. Only the hands of other women to guide you, with hot cloths and silent prayers repeated again and again. You don't know how many women never came back after childbirth. There are no records, no grand funerals, just empty rooms and names slowly forgotten. But you cannot refuse. You are not allowed to refuse. Because this is your task, to continue the bloodline, to become the passage for the next generation. And if you cannot give birth, you are seen as a failure. So you pray, not for joy, but to survive, to live, so you can wake again the next day, even with a torn body and trembling soul. Your child will be wrapped in cloth, placed on your chest, and everyone will call you successful. But no one will ask how you feel. No one sees the way your eyes still fear to close. Because being a mother is not about readiness. It is only about whether you remain. Being a mother means never sleeping peacefully again. Your child cries at night, and you rise immediately, not because you are strong, but because no one else will do it. You breastfeed with a body that is not yet healed, sitting on a cold floor. Letting your head rest against the wall, your eyes half open. In the daytime, you carry the baby while still doing all your household tasks. No one replaces you. There is no sharing of time, no break. Love in your role is not something soft and light, but something heavy and silent. You love your child not because you freely chose it, but because it is the only thing that feels entirely yours. But even that love must be quiet. Too much tenderness is seen as weakness. Too many tears are seen as failure. So you love in silence. You look at that small face with a hope you dare not speak aloud. That may be, someday, they will not live as you do. But you know well, if your child is a boy, he will grow into the world that pushes you aside. And if she is a girl, she will grow to take your place. You love while letting go. You care while knowing you are sending them into a world that may never make space for them. So you hold that small hand tightly, as if that might protect them a little longer. But even your grip must release one day. And no one will ask what that feels like. In the midst of the silence, sometimes you find a small space to breathe with other women. In the kitchen, while washing clothes or sewing in a stuffy room, you glance at each other without many words. But in those glances, there is understanding. You all know pain that needs no explanation. You all carry wounds that have no name but feel the same. Sometimes there is soft laughter, not because something is funny, but because the body needs something to keep going. Sometimes there are stories about childhood dreams or faded memories, but never for too long. The world does not give women much time to share. Even simple conversations can be seen as disruptions to order. So you speak in moments, behind nearly closed doors, in the language of eyes, in the pull of breath. No one arranges those meetings, no one records them, but in those moments you feel a little more alive. Because only in the presence of other women can you take off the silent mask you wear all day. There, you do not have to be strong. You do not have to be perfect. You only have to be present. To sit with those who also know what it is like not to be heard. And though the quiet returns after that, you keep that small moment like a flame in the long winter. You grow up hearing stories of goddesses. Wise Athena, free Artemis, powerful Hera. They are carved in grand sculptures, painted in vivid colors, worshipped in solemn rituals. But though you whisper their names in prayers, they remain distant. None of them come when you need protection. None of them answer when you cry in silence. They are shadows of beautiful power, but they never reach the small space where you live. In their stories, women hold vows, lead battles, demand loyalty. But in your reality, you cannot even choose when you sleep or eat. Myth offers promises you never truly feel. It makes the world seem a little more fair, only so you do not lose hope completely. But you know no goddess will descend into your home. None will stop your husband when he is angry. None will take your place when you fall ill. So you keep speaking their names, not because you believe in miracles, but because you need something to believe in, so you do not disappear entirely. You love their stories, but you also know you do not live inside them. And that is the most painful difference when imagination offers a world you cannot touch. Time moves slowly, but it still arrives. Your body weakens. Your hair turns gray. Your skin loses the glow of youth, but no honor comes with it. In ancient Greece, growing old as a woman does not mean becoming wise, but becoming invisible. The children you once cared for are now busy with their own lives. Your husband, if still present, no longer looks at you with attention. And society only sees two roles for women: the young who can bear children, or the dead. There is no place for those in between. So you sit longer in the corners of the house. You speak less, even when you know much. No one asks your opinion. No one waits for your advice. You live like a shadow, sweeping floors that are no longer dirty, repeating routines just to fill the day. But inside, you still hear the voices of the past your small child, your mother, your younger self who once dared to hope. You keep all of it quietly, because there is no space for old stories in a world that spins forward without looking back. And one day, without ceremony, without record, you are no longer there. The house remains standing, as if it lost nothing. Because that is how old women leave, not with mourning, not with monuments, but with a silence only felt by those who know what it is to be slowly forgotten. When the time comes, you do not leave the world in grandeur. No long procession, no choir, no name carved into marble. Maybe there are some quiet tears, maybe a hug from a child who still remembers you, but it all fades quickly. Your death is not a historical event. It is a faint note in a house that has grown used to losing women. No poem is written to remember you. No tale will be told to the next generation. If you are lucky, your given name might still be spoken during a family ritual. But even that will fade, replaced by children born with new names. You become part of the earth, part of the house, part of a world that never truly recorded your existence. But you know you lived. You knew pain, love, and fear. You knew what it meant to wait for morning, wishing the night would pass. You knew everything, but none of it enters the history books. So you go, like many women before and after, you in silence, without trace. And the world goes on as if you were never there. Your life is part of a greater order. It is not you who determine the path, but you follow the lines that have been drawn. You are a wife, a mother, a daughter, nothing more than that. Your family's name might be mentioned, but only as an addition to the story of the powerful men. They who have the voice, they who write history. You are there every day, living the same routine, caring for the house, raising the children, serving your husband. But your small voice, your little hopes, are never heard. You are never the subject of the story. There is no record of how you felt when you woke in the morning, when you swept the floor, or when you waited for your husband to return from the market. There is no space to tell what is in your heart. All your actions are assumed. All your feelings are ordinary. No praise, no recognition. Just the hope that all you do is enough to keep the world around you moving smoothly. And when your life ends, no one will remember how much you gave. You will fade away in shadows that were never truly seen. You are not taught to read. The letters carved on temple walls or written on papyrus scrolls are not meant for your eyes. Knowledge is considered the domain of men, a tool for discussion, governance, and recording the world. But you, they say, do not need to know. You only need to listen, to remember, to obey. If you ask too many questions, they call you stubborn. If you try to read, they say you are crossing a line. So you learn to suppress your curiosity, to keep your questions quietly inside, but your mind is never truly still. As you sit in the kitchen, you wonder why the seasons change. When you hear myths, you ask if there are versions that are never told. But there is no space to answer you. The books are kept in rooms you cannot enter. The discussions happen in forums you cannot attend. So you listen from behind curtains, from hallways, from doors that never open. They say women don't need to know to be good. But you know, knowledge isn't about good or bad. It's about existence, about knowing the world and knowing yourself. And when you are denied the right to know, you are also denied the right to be whole. Your life happens within walls, not the walls of a palace, nor the walls of a temple, but the walls of a home narrow, damp, and closed off from the outside world. You wake in the same room, walk the same steps, and sleep again beneath the same ceiling each day. Outside, The world moves, the market is crowded. Forums are filled with voices. Ports are busy with ships. But you are not there. You hear it from a distance. Through a small window crack or through stories brought home by your husband. That world is not yours. The limits of space become the limits of life. Every step you take must be allowed. Every movement must seem proper. If you go out too often, you are questioned. If you stay in, you are forgotten. So you choose silence. You endure within walls that slowly become walls inside you as well. You begin to forget what it feels like to walk alone. What it feels like to sit under sunlight without fear. You begin to forget what it feels like to be anything other than a good woman. And so the space shrinks not just physically, but inside your mind. And at a certain point, you no longer know if you live inside a house, or if you've become part of the wall itself. Behind your calm face, there is always something that cannot be explained. Like a breeze that makes no sound but can be felt, there is a part of you that keeps pulsing quietly, refusing to truly die. You never dare to call it freedom. That word is too big, too dangerous. Q, but you know its shape. It appears when you glance at the sky through the gaps of the roof. When you take a brief walk to the well and feel the wind on your cheek. When you quietly wish to choose your own path, even just for a day. That desire does not explode. It does not arrive as rebellion. It lives in whispers. In small choices, the way you comb your hair, the way you fold cloth, the way you look at your own reflection in water. The world does not know you want more. They cannot see it, but you do. Because even though you were taught to bow, taught to obey, there is a part of your soul that remembers what it is to want to be whole. And even if no change ever comes, even if your life stays in its narrow track, you still keep it. A longing you never speak. A yearning with no place, but it is there. And its presence alone is enough to make you feel alive. The day grows dim. The sky shifts color from pale blue to soft orange, then into a deep gray. The sounds outside the house fade one by one. Children stop playing. The kitchen fire becomes glowing embers. And you sit in the same corner with a tired body, still hands, and thoughts that slowly drift away. Night does not arrive all at once. It creeps in, like time, like age, like the silence you have known for so long. You pull over a worn blanket, lay your body on the thin bedding. You know tomorrow will be the same, and perhaps the day after, but tonight is different. There is a strange calm. Not because all is well, but because you have waited too long for the world to hear you, and you know it never will. So you stop waiting. You simply lie there, listening to your own breath, slow and deep. You think about the days that passed unnoticed, about the words you never spoke, about the places you never saw. But you are not angry, not anymore, because you are tired. And in that tiredness, there's a quiet peace, like the earth spinning without sound, like water flowing in the dark, like a life never recorded, but still real. Close your eyes. Imagine the dark Greek sky above the low rooftops built from earth and stone. The night wind moves gently, slipping through a partly open window. Inside the house, all is still. No footsteps. No whispered prayers. Only the soft breath of a woman who spent her whole life within those walls. She was never known to the world. Never wrote a book. Never stood upon a stage. But she loved, she cared, she endured. She rose every morning, though no one thanked her. She closed her eyes each night, though not a single name ever spoke hers in the records of history. And now she lies still, her breath slowly blending with the night. There is no dramatic ending, no grand light. Only a deep quiet, like the earth receiving all things without a sound. Her story will not be taught in schools, but she lived. And that is enough. She is part of all that is unseen, yet holds everything in place. So let her sleep in peace, in silence, in a world that never saw her, but could not stand without her.